All right, let's dive right into it. Today, we're taking a chronological journey into the actual lifespan of a solar panel. Now, solar technology is obviously transforming our world, but there's this persistent, kind of nagging mystery about what really happens to these incredible pieces of engineering as the decades roll by. So we're going to pull back the curtain on the physics, the manufacturing, and the ultimate afterlife of solar panels. So here's the million-dollar question we hear all the time. Do solar panels just die at 25? I mean, if you look at standard industry warranties, they almost always cap out right at the 25 or 30-year mark. It's super easy to assume that on the very first day of year 26, the panel just shuts down and becomes a heavy glass paperweight on your roof. But the science tells us a completely different and honestly much more optimistic story. The reality actually comes down to one tiny, surprisingly reassuring number, 0.5%. Yeah, 0.5%. Rather than falling off a cliff, these panels just experience a slow, super predictable annual decline in their energy output. On average, standard panels lose only about 0.5% of their efficiency each year. They don't die, they just age, and they do it very gracefully. So here's our roadmap for this explainer. We'll start with the 25-year myth, look at why panels degrade, see how engineers are diagnosing solar health, check out next-gen solar technology, and finally look at life after 25 years. All right, part 1, the 25-year myth. Think of a solar panel kind of like an elite marathon runner. Sure, over the course of a really long race, they might lose a tiny fraction of their starting pace, but they're still running a phenomenal race all the way to the finish line and well beyond. A comprehensive study by the National Renewable Energy Lab actually proved this. They found that high-quality, modern panels degraded a shockingly low 0.4% annually. That means after a full quarter century of baking in the summer sun and freezing in the winter snow, these panels are still holding on to 80 to 90% of their original generating capacity. And because they're still turning out free power, a lot of them actually get an awesome second life powering off-grid cabins or RVs. Which brings us to part 2. Why exactly do panels degrade? If they aren't just suddenly breaking, what is behind that slow decline? Well, it's invisible physics. And the very first hit a panel takes happens almost the second it sees the sun. We call it light-induced degradation, or LID. Basically, when a standard P-type boron-doped panel comes out of the box and hits sunlight for the very first time, leftover oxygen from manufacturing reacts with the boron. This reaction creates energy levels in the silicon that literally trap electrons. It's kind of like an initial break-in period for a new pair of shoes, causing a quick 1 to 3% performance drop in those first few hours before it finally settles down. Now, there's a much more severe issue that creeps up over time, potential induced degradation, or PID. This one's caused by stray leakage currents triggered by the voltage difference between the cells and the grounded metal frame. Throw in high heat and humidity, and it really speeds up. If a system isn't grounded right or lacks a reversal device, PID acts like a silent disease, secretly sapping up to 30% of the panel's power. No joke. If we map these threats onto a timeline, you can see it's basically a continuous battle. LID hits right at the starting gun, the first 100 hours. Then, over the first 10 years, thermal cycling, that constant expanding in the heat and contracting in the cold, causes these tiny microcracks. And finally, moving into years 10 through 25, that's when the moisture and voltage differences allow PID to really build up. Moving into part 3, diagnosing solar health. So, how in the world do engineers know this is happening if it's all invisible to us? Well, they have to play medical detective. First up, IR thermography. They use infrared cameras to hunt for hotspots. If PID or a tiny crack is causing electrical resistance, that exact spot heats up and boom, the camera catches it. Next is UV fluorescence. After a year outside, the plastic inside the panel naturally glows under UV light. But if oxygen sneaks in through a microcrack, it stops glowing, drawing a literal dark map of the damage. Finally, electroluminescence. This is absolutely wild. They pump electricity backward into the panel in a pitch black room, making the silicon cells actually emit shortwave infrared light. It's literally an X-ray for solar panels, exposing hidden cracks and mismatched cells. All right, part 4, next-gen solar technology. The solar industry isn't just sitting around watching panels degrade. They are actively fighting back by fundamentally changing the genetics of the solar cell itself. For years, the gold standard was the traditional P-type PERC cell, but it hits a hard ceiling at 24.5% efficiency, and like we mentioned earlier, its boron doping makes it a sitting duck for that light-induced degradation. Enter N-type TOPCon.
Because TOPCon uses a totally different doping structure, it is literally immune to that initial boron-based LID drop. Plus, by using these ultra-thin oxide layers, its theoretical efficiency limit skyrockets to 28.7%. And the results are huge. Looking at technical white papers from manufacturers like Canadian Solar, combining these N-type TOPCon cells with new innovations like non-destructive cell dicing unlocks massive power yields. We are talking about leaping from your standard 420-watt panels all the way up to absolute beasts cranking out 700 watts. But hey, it's not just about peak power on a perfect, sunny, 70-degree day. TOPCon tech completely changes how a panel handles extreme conditions. These N-type cells have a higher open-circuit voltage, which gives them a much better temperature coefficient. In plain English, they don't lose as much power when they're absolutely baking in extreme summer heat compared to those older PERC models. They even manage to squeeze out about 0.2% more power when it's cloudy or low light. Finally, Part 5, Life After 25 Years.
Look, inevitably, even the absolute best TOPCon panels will reach the end of their commercially viable life. So when a panel finally comes off the roof, what actually happens to it? Here's a staggering fact for you. Up to 95% of the materials inside a standard solar panel can be recycled. 95%. And this isn't just some pipe dream for the future. The specialized recycling infrastructure to make this happen is rapidly scaling up right now.
This whole reincarnation process basically happens in 3 main steps. First up, recyclers pop off the aluminum frame and the electrical junction box, both of which are super easy to reuse. Step 2 is either mechanical shredding or thermal processing to unglue and separate those laminated layers. And step 3, they extract the core materials. Glass makes up roughly 75% of the panel's weight and is incredibly easy to recover. Even better, scientists have nailed down processes to extract the highly valuable silicon, silver, and copper without relying on nasty polluting solvents. And what happens to those recovered materials? Well, they go on to do some seriously amazing things. In fact, silicon recovered from solar waste could help slash raw material costs in the booming electric vehicle industry. Think about that for a second. The silicon from yesterday's retired solar panels is literally being baked into the lithium-ion battery anodes of tomorrow's electric cars. Now that is what I call a green cycle.
So clearly, a solar panel's 25-year warranty is definitely not a death sentence. It's really just chapter 1. As these incredibly durable panels outlive their warranties, find second lives off the grid, and eventually break down to build the next generation of EVs, we have to ask, how will this beautiful, fully circular economy reshape the world we live in? Thanks so much for joining me to explore the true life of a solar panel. Keep asking those big questions, and we'll see you in the next explainer.